I'm gonna move into this. If you couldn't already tell, I'm stressing.
It's been quite a day for sure.
Yeah. How's your day been, man?
Good, busy. It was one of those days. This whole week's been one of those weeks where every day I wake up and I'm just nonstop until I go to
Facts.
sleep.
Facts. I'm not gonna lie. I had. Okay, I'm curious. This has nothing to do with our topic for today, but do you feel that as you get older, compared to like 17-year-old you need more or less sleep?
Oh, I need more, but I get less, which is the unfortunate part.
Okay. Now, the statistic, Google, says that as you get older, you need less physically. Do
I've
you
read
believe
that, yeah.
what? How is that true? Because I don't feel that at all, and I know everybody I've asked who's older than me doesn't feel that. So, how is that possible?
I think in terms of the body's need for the actual sleep, it becomes less the older you get, and then it kind of goes back in reverse as you pass a certain age. But I think that that's in a world where you don't have to stress yourself out to pay bills. Like that's in
Ah,
like
okay.
places where you're not
Like the animal
literally.
kingdom.
Yeah, exactly. Like at a biological level, and places like Europe where they have shit figured out and not they're not stressed out, you know?
Oh, that was hilarious. Okay. At a biological level and in Europe.
And in Europe, yeah. Well, Europe's got shit figured out. So
I mean, yeah, okay. More than us.
there's specific places that have it more figured out than others, but generally speaking, I think it's important to acknowledge that most of Europe has their shit figured out comparatively to the U.S. And that's coming from somebody who's lived in the U.S. their whole life.
I won't argue with you on that one. Would you ever make a point for which part of Europe has more shit figured out?
I think Norway is like
Yeah,
statistically the
right.
best.
Have you? Is Norway the one with the prisons that are like houses?
Yeah, it's either that or the Netherlands. I gotta look it up, but yeah, it's one of those.
Anyways, back on topic.
Yeah. Today's topic is live shows, festivals, and all the above. So we're gonna talk about.
So,
Yeah,
I mean,
go ahead.
sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go
No,
crazy.
that was it. I'm doing my thing. Go ahead.
You are the festival guy between the two of us.
Correct.
So, I want you to start. Have you ever performed at a festival?
Yes, actually, I have.
Okay.
Some people might know it. It's called Life in Color. It's
Fun.
actually a multi-day, multi-stage, multi-genre festival where they throw paint on you,
Okay.
and you can buy paint buckets and throw them on people and stuff, and you can like
That's like they do it to the artist. They do it to everybody. What's the?
it's the crowd really. Like the artist, we try to stay out of it, but if you're in the crowd, you're gonna get hit. And it kind of goes over the fence, and then they have giant hoses on stage. Let me see if I can pull it up actually. While we're talking about it, but yeah, that was the one I performed at. It's called Life in Color, but
Something else?
it was really cool. It was fun because the before that, the day before was another festival called Dada Life Festival, which is a an electronic duo. They
Uh-huh.
actually had a festival before, and it was pretty cool to be there the next day for a completely different event, but still
I
with the same layout. It was pretty
Oh,
interesting.
you went to Dada, performed in Life and Death.
Life in Color, yeah. So
Got
here, let me. I'm gonna share my screen. This is see. I know I was gonna have to share my screen for some reason.
You can just keep it up, Brian. You should.
Yeah.
Unless
Okay. So there we go. This is Life in Color Festival. Let me turn the music off. So this is pretty old. Let's see how old this is. 2013, but you get the gist. Let me see where they go to the paint. Yeah,
uh,
this actually might be the one. Is this inside or outside? This might be one of the ones that I like went to or
wait, I'm sorry to interrupt again, but like pain is toxic when you ingest it.
you're not supposed to ingest it.
But like he's fucking spewing it at these people. Like
Yeah, hold on. Let me switch over to so people can see. Okay, yeah. So it's literally is being sprayed off the stage. Let me go back and find the spot where it's being sprayed. Yeah, see,
it's like
literally being like covered, and you're not supposed to ingest. This stuff stains too. It
it's
doesn't
like
just
the police sprayed people with hoses. They used acid. That's what this is like.
look at that. That is here. Let me go back and pause it real quick because that's gnarly. Like the amount of paint, and they still do this to this day. It's not just
Oh,
look at that, like
oh,
covered. But yeah, I played this festival and we got we found like 8 buckets, like everybody is covered in this, but we found like tons of buckets of paint and we got the pool toys where you pull on them and then you can squirt water, but it was with paint. Oh man, we were standing on the other side of the fence, like where the backstage area was, and it was a chain link fence and we were just like shooting it through the fence. Everyone's like, what the fuck? Yeah, it was really fun.
okay. I mean, it sounds fucking fire. Like it sounds like a lot of fun, but I feel like if I'm gonna ingest paint, like, I don't.
So
know.
I personally, the last time I went as a festival goer, I actually ended up covered. I'll show you a picture after this, but I actually ended up covered.
Like, were you sick when you went home because of it, or no?
No, but I also kept my mouth shut and I also stayed in the back. Like you kind of know what you're getting yourself into if you're
Okay.
going. So I stayed in the back where they couldn't really hit you. And then the only time I actually got hit was when people in the crowd had like they give you squirt bottles, kind of like the paint, like paint it yourself, squirt bottles like with acrylic paint in them, but they
Yeah.
like almost like ketchup bottles, and you can squirt them on people. But like every time someone would run up, I'd be like I'd be like no, don't even try it.
I'd be
And
in the same boat.
they're pretty cool in VIP. So if you want to stay safe, it's best to get a VIP wristband.
So
But yeah,
okay.
that was fun. And I've
Tell me
also
about.
been to EDC and all that stuff before too, which just happened in Orlando.
So I guess let's halfway transition from, you know, performing in a festival. Well, like, before we jump off that, tell me what is that feeling like being in front of a crowd like that? Because it's very different than a concert crowd, you know. So
In terms of like a crowd that's there for like a DJ versus like live music.
like when you played, did the audience have to kind of rush into your venue and then like fill in the crowd, so to speak, like fill in the lot in front of you, or were they like already there and you came out behind an artist, or was it like for just the DJs? How did it operate?
Yeah, so I was on a side stage. They had a main stage, a secondary stage, and then they had this like side stage area. So it was already set up. I just kind of like went on after another DJ, so it wasn't really like my show. It was just a festival. Like most festivals, there are headliners, but not necessarily anything that one specific artist is responsible as the headliner. There's the closing artist, which is, I guess would be considered the headliner, but that wasn't me. This was really early on in my career. But I was
Okay.
just happy to be there because I got an artist wristband for the whole festival and I got to play. I mean, I think there was only like maybe 50 people at my stage, but I mean, again, it was pretty new for me. I was probably only a DJ for I want to say like 5-6 years at that point. So
Oh, shit, okay.
I was pretty stoked. And 2 Chainz was on the bill. Like literally, it's 2 Chainz at the top, and then my name is like microscopic at the bottom. But it's cool to have
It's
my
fire though, like yeah.
yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, it's fun. I mean, to answer your question, what's it like? I mean, for me, I prefer it depends. I like both crowds. I like club crowds and I like festival crowds. And to me, festivals are something that I think everybody should attend at the level of at least EDC or something comparable where there's like 3 or 4 stages and it's multiple days. And I'm not saying you need to do it all the time. You don't have to stay the whole time, but I think it's cool because it's one of those things where it's way bigger than just you. Like it's not just like a couple bands. So I mean, I guess a comparable version would be I'm trying to think of like Coachella would be an example, or
Okay.
Lollapalooza would be another like East Coast or yeah, an East Coast example. But yeah, um, I don't know. I think for me, it's more of a lively crowd that is a lot less judgmental. Like they're having a lot. It's a lot more fun because there's a lot less. They're not just there for like a show and one artist. So at a festival, you're getting people who are maybe there to see a different style of music than you play. So, but they're going with the understanding that there's going to be music that they don't necessarily listen to, and if you're open to it, you can find a lot of new music that way by going to a music festival and listening to new music. So I think that because of that, you find that people are pretty open, instead of like at a club where if you're the opener for a bigger DJ, they're just there for the bigger DJ. So they're like, all right, hurry up.
See what you're saying. Okay, got you. Have you? And I know actually I know the answer to this. You've done smaller venues, as in not festivals, but clubs, for example, or concerts.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference?
Yeah, club shows are my favorite because of how intimate they are. And I feel like you can also relate to some extent, because when you play a more intimate venue versus a venue that has like a bigger stage and you're a little more separated, it's it's kind of like being put on a pedestal in the sense, which is cool, but I prefer when I'm performing to be close. Like there's something in the DJ community called a boiler room set, and as the name suggests, it's very hot because everybody is allowed behind the DJ booth. There's no separation between crowd and DJ. Oftentimes there's more people behind the DJ than there are in front of the DJ, because it's a 360. They'll put barricades inside of a warehouse, for example, around a DJ, and then everybody fills in around them. It's 360.
Okay.
Or sometimes I don't even put barricades up, and there's a lot of footage online where people like bump the DJ, or like they're like running into people. It's really fun. It's like a whole style of show, and it's not awesome for every show, but it's cool sometimes, you know.
Sure. Do you so in that instance, are you like, do you lose yourself in that moment, or you manage to stay focused, or what do you like? What would you recommend, I guess, for a DJ who is pining for venues like that? How do they go into that prepared, a boiler room setting?
So yeah, that's a little more nerve-wracking, because there's a lot more that can go wrong, but it's also really, really fun because you can feed off the energy of the people in the crowd more than if you were just like on stage. But on stage at this level that we're watching right now, which is EDC, like this is a whole nother level. I haven't played this size of a crowd before, so I have nothing to compare it to, but I have played a venue of about, I think they totaled us at 3,500 somewhere in there was my biggest show. It was like 3 stories of people. Again, not there for me, but I was an opener for them. I went on right before the main person went on, so pretty much everyone was there for that was gonna be there, was already there. So it was massive. But yeah, to answer your question, it's a lot of people, yeah. And at that moment, I say I blacked out, but not physically. It's more of a mental blackout where I'm so focused in what's going on and I'm so involved in the energy that I'm not thinking about it. I'm just in a flow state, which is basically the best way to explain it. But to answer your question, I think it's important for anybody who wants to play any type of set, just to kind of prep yourself to have backups, so backup USBs. And if you're like, let's say you're a vocalist, have a backup microphone. Prepare for things to potentially go wrong, and also don't expect venues to have everything, because they often won't. And if they do have what you need, it's probably in bad condition because you and everybody else is using it. So it's important to bring your own gear if you need your own gear. Like if you depend on having a specific type of setup, then you need to just bring it yourself, or make sure that the club has a usable version. And it's also good to go to sound check. Almost every show I've ever been a part of, if you ask like, hey, when is sound check, they'll let you know, because the sound guy has to do his setup. So it only makes sense to be there a little early and do your setup with the sound guy, so that you can really maximize your sound and know what you're getting yourself into. Which leads me to my last tip, is just to practice, because if you don't practice your set and you just kind of wing it, I know a lot of people that are like, oh, I just wing it, but yeah, you didn't always do that. I would be willing to bet like there always is a level of planning, at least in the beginning, and I think that's important to not overlook. Even if you think that you've got it and you are a freestyle DJ or a freestyle artist, that's fine, but it's important to at least practice what you might do, just so you have that muscle and memory embedded in you, so that in case something does go wrong, or in case you're not feeling the same way you did when you practice, it's in you. So yeah, great question. But I'm curious about you, like all the same questions, but kind of curious what it's like as a rapper, as opposed to someone who's like a DJ, what you feel maybe the difference is, and also how you personally get shows and get prepared for shows.
when you say difference between being a DJ versus a rapper, or a bit
No,
difference?
no, just like the difference. So I guess we'll kind of find out as you answer the questions, but I'm curious the differences in like maybe prepping, how you prep versus a DJ. Also, like what things to look out for, and also kind of your feelings on stage because they might be different. But yeah, that's where I'm kind of curious.
Okay, I have limited experience, so I've only legitimately performed once. I'm being honest. Um, I've done much like smaller unofficial things a couple times, but as far as like a show's been put together, I'm going. It wasn't even a stage. I was on the same level as the crowd, but like I'm standing up in front of people performing.
Yeah.
One of the acts. I've only done that once. Um, but in that one time, a lot of different things went into it because I wasn't just an act. Like I was part of the organization that put it together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so let's see if I can start from the beginning. Getting prepared was a little interesting for me because it almost went like this. Me and another artist are part of the same group, not literally, but like same community, so to speak.
Right.
I find out he's doing a show in LA. I'm like, yo, you're doing a show in LA? He's like, yeah, you should join. Bet.
Hell yeah.
First show ever, 1 week from today. Fuck it, let's do it, right? So that left me with, I had some songs in the works I didn't love at the time, and nothing out that I really wanted to perform. This was like very early on in my artistry, right? So
Right.
I used the first week to fucking record. Like I was making song, like 3 songs a day. And I ended up with a 5-song set list, including 2 songs, one at the beginning that was a feature with the artist who was before me, and one at the end that was a feature with the closer. Preparing, aside from recording, a lot of practice, for sure. No question. But on top of the practice, the mental prep being, regardless of what you walk into, you got to be you. Like you have to perform, you know?
Definitely.
And sometimes I mean, more often than not, you won't know the situation you're about to walk into as an artist, as a person. But I'd argue that learning yourself is the biggest asset in that regard, because if you know what sort of interactions make you comfortable versus uncomfortable, or how you interact with this type of person versus that type of person, or how you deal with certain situations and why, then when new things come up like that you're not used to, you can kind of embrace it because you've practiced internally without ever really doing it, if that makes sense, because you practice with other circumstances that relate in some way.
Yeah, socially and kind of like you said, yourself, to where you know how you respond in certain situations, where if you know that you are going to get anxious, or you know that you feel some type of way in certain situations, then you can prep to cope with that, or have different things that you do in order to manage those situations. I mean,
Yeah,
it could be good too. Like, I don't know, for me, a really big one that I had to learn the hard way was not to drink too much or consume too much before shows, just because it's really easy to be like, oh, I'm gonna have a good time, I'm the entertainment, like rock stars drink and do drugs, yeah, like you're not wrong.
like
But dude, and don't get me wrong, it's a lot like drunk driving, I would say, where like the first time you get away with it, you're like, maybe I can do this, and then you do it a couple more times, and then if you get really good at it, quote unquote, it becomes dangerous, because that one time you slip up, that's the end of it for you. And honestly, like I felt the same way with my experience, because I don't know, it's something that I felt like I could handle, but then I ended up falling apart on stage, and because it really, I really was just adding insult to injury. And I don't mind sharing the story. So I was actually in Miami, and I was performing an after show after I'd already performed at a nightclub. So it was like 4 or 5 in the morning. I'd already been drinking at the show because I had performed and then started drinking. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to the after party. I'm only playing for like an hour. It's fine. but I brought my launch pad, which is like a MIDI launcher to where I can launch clips from it instead of just playing from turntables, which is what I should have done. But I set up my launch pad, and I completely lost track of where I was at on the pad, and I lost where I was at on my computer. So I started hitting buttons, and things that weren't supposed to happen started happening. Like when I thought it was going to transition to the next song, it would cut off the highs, and it would just be like a high pass filter. And I'm like, wait, what? And then I would hit the stutter, and the stutter would get stuck on a loop, and I wouldn't be able to get it unstuck, even to the point where I could hear people in the crowd like, yo, what the fuck? Dude, it was bad, to the point where I went from being invited back every single like weekend to them saying to my manager to never have me come back again. Like it was bad. But again, I learned the hard way, and I learned from my mistake. Don't do that.
Okay, so I mean, you can attest.
Yeah, don't do that.
I was aware. I was aware at the time that I needed to manage my consumption, so I wasn't going crazy. Speaking of, this is CBD right now, guys. This is not even weed, so I'm being good at managing.
Awesome.
Okay, let me move on from prep. The feelings. People after the show, they didn't know it was my first show until I told them, and I didn't tell everybody. I just told like a select group of artists that I was with. But that was a gigantic compliment to me, obviously, because it shows, I handled my business, even though I didn't know really what to do.
Hell yeah.
That being said, being my own worst critic, I don't think I moved enough. I don't think I engaged with the crowd enough. This is me watching clips back. This is not
right. Yeah. This isn't while you're up there.
Right.
That'd be a little toxic. You're up there like, move more. Yeah.
Be hella toxic. But I definitely saw how things could have been better watching it back. But in the moment, it felt amazing. Like I was like, this is where I belong. That moment is literally what kicked off my belief in myself to be an artist that day. Pursuing artistry as a business. The other emotions sort of all compiled into gratitude, if you will.
Definitely makes sense.
And it was just a good time. I completely understand how it's easy to be in rock star mode and like, I'm gonna drink and I'm gonna smoke and I'm gonna fuck off just because I'm here to have a good time, because it feels like a party, like you're the center of attention. You know what I mean? You get to go up there and do what you love. You just poured your heart into these songs and you sing them to these people and they're like, yeah, it's a fucking great thing, right? But
exactly.
At the end of it, it's ironic. So it's my first show ever. I'm dating this girl at the time, and she's recording it for me. She's also she does a lot of my content, right? And when we get back to the house at night, it's just like an argument, like out of bullshit, like for no reason, like a simple ass argument that just fucks up the whole mood for that night and the next morning. And I'm honestly so glad that happened for two reasons. One, we broke up the next morning, which is fire, because didn't need to be there.
You already knew.
And two, it showed me, it made me, I felt up here and then I felt down here, and I was like, oh, I'm human. All right, great. Let's keep pushing. You know what I mean? I didn't get the chance to live on that high, and looking back, I'm very grateful for that, because I think I would have been complacent a little bit longer. But it made me want to push. It gave me the belief in myself, the day did, but then that happening afterwards made me want to push a bit harder, just because it kind of brought me back down to earth. And this is my personal experience, maybe not anybody else's. Probably somebody else.
I think it's important to at least hear from somebody that's experienced that, even if you are not, if you as an artist haven't experienced that yet, because if you know that it's possible to get a big ego or to kind of lose yourself in a situation, and then you also know from your experience that you're liable to get brought back down. I mean, I think that's a great message, because just like you shouldn't really you shouldn't consume too much. It's also important to try and stay level-headed throughout the experience, because it's so easy when people are patting you on the back and like screaming like, yeah, it is awesome and all whatever, to think that you're hot shit. But then when you leave the club, you leave the venue, and somebody in the streets like, yo, fuck you, you're like,
Exactly.
what? So like that's a really, I can't say that exact thing has happened to me, but I can tell you that I have had a similar experience, almost like what you said. It minus like the breakup and stuff, but I've been on a super high leaving the venue, and then I get brought super low and like
right away.
yeah, and I'm just like, man, this night was fucking perfect. And then I realize after looking back, I'm like, no, that was meant to happen, because you were flying a bit too high, and you hit your head on the ceiling fan there, bud.
Yeah, facts. Okay, so I want to say this as a disclaimer. I'm about to give advice that is based on hypotheses and research about how to get bookings, not from personal experience, because I've only given one show. Rooks has more experience with shows, so if you want to listen to actual real life experience, what he says is going to be more valid. This is just me as a rapper from doing what I've been doing this last year and planning to do a lot of shows in the new year. Don't wait to get the call. Put your own shit on, I think, would be number one in my where I'm from, in my circle, just period. Primarily because you turn into like the open mic guy. That's who they know you as. You know what I mean? Maybe you don't know what I mean. The open mics are.
I'm nodding. I'm agreeing. I'm laughing.
I know you know what I mean, but for a viewer,
yeah.
the open mics are essentially, like you can imagine where people go watch people, read poetry and they clap it up. It's basically that vibe for like new artists in every city. And there's bigger and smaller open mics, and there's ones you have to pay to get on, and there's ones that you do raffles to get in. It basically turns your artistry and your pouring your soul out on a stage into a business, like more of a business than I think it should be. It's exploiting new talent.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's interesting.
Because 1 out of a million people in that setting actually find the resources that they need. I actually know one of those million because I've seen somebody go to open mics, meet an A&R, end up getting signed to Interscope.
No shit. Wow. Yeah, like, okay.
That's a thing. Probably because I'm in LA and not some buttfuck nowhere place. You know what I mean?
Okay, that's a valid point to add, that you're in LA and not like Ohio. No shade to Ohio, but we've already had this conversation about how there's nothing to do but make music.
I mean, I can't honestly, bro. I'm happy that that's the case in some places because it breeds so much more creativity.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. No, I like it when people aren't like hunting like sharks in clubs, like, hey, you need representation, you want to join the label, like, bruh, I'm at an open mic, of course I'm gonna say yes, but I don't know if you're what's best for me. But that's a whole other conversation. But yeah,
so I think it's important to be able to put a group together or put something together, whether it's just you dropping all the money or whatever you want to do. Have control over the venue for the time being until you're getting paid for it, would be my argument. If a club manager wants to give you whatever number you're okay with to go out there and sing, awesome, do it. But I think while you're not getting paid, I think while you're on the come up, while you're trying to get your face shown in your city more, in whatever city more, organize your own shit. Like I spend time researching how to put on a tour versus what open mic is on in my city this weekend. Like that's where my head is at. That's where my focus is at.
Yeah. Well, that's an entrepreneur's mindset. That's where you go.
Yeah, and I think as an artist, you have to be an entrepreneur. You're not going to make it.
Absolutely. If you're not, like, it's just a hobby, an expensive one at that.
Exactly. So, long story short, control your environment would be my first piece of advice, and second and last piece of advice. Try, and this is a conversation I just recently had today that it actually struck a nerve in my head because it was a great idea. I think starting intimate is really important because if you try to have too big of a crowd in the beginning, a lot of those people aren't going to hear you, see you. They're going to peter out. They're not going to be real fans, so to speak, real supporters.
Exactly, yeah.
12 people, 15 people, 8 people, 10 people, whoever the fuck will come. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Give it a shot. See if they like it. See if you can entertain that crowd because they're in your face. And if you can't do it here, then you can't do it there. would be my second piece of advice.
That's awesome. That's really good advice. And I think that you, before you were kind of saying like it might be different in other people's experience, but based on my experience, it's almost like exactly what I would say. So my experience in being an entertainer, DJ, whatever you want to say, I started by literally throwing my own show. I went to a bar that has a dance floor and a DJ booth, and I was like, hey, I want to throw a show. Will you let me throw a show here? I'm going to charge, at the time it was like $5, $10 at the door, and you can keep bar sales. And they were like, okay, fine. So I literally did. I set it up. I made the flyer. I posted the flyer on Facebook. I told all my friends. I think like there's pictures of the first event. I think there was like 8 or 9 people. And then I just did that for, I want to say like 3 months. And then through that, I was building my resume and my like social skills and my ability to entertain those 8 people that were there. Right. And then through that, I got other opportunities because people would have friends in town, or people would be there and they'd be like, hey, do you play at anywhere else? And I'd be like, no, not right now. They're like, oh, you should play here. And then I would hear about opportunities. And I think that that's a one way that it happens. It's how it happened for me anyway. But I also think that there's the other side of it where you have to, as they say, build your own door if you can't find the door. Because when I moved to Texas, there was no door. I didn't have the connections. I also don't have the time, because back when I was able to kind of throw my own shows, I was in high school and college. Like I had the free time. But now, being the age I am and the stage of life I am, like I have a day job, and after that I have all these other responsibilities that don't allow me to do that. So it's important to, in this stage of my life, if I want something to happen, I have to absolutely just do it myself. I got to call up a venue and make it happen. But in Texas, I went both routes. I've gone the route of looking at what it takes to throw a show, and it doesn't really pan out where I'm at because there's so much competition. And then I've done the route of going and showing up at the venue where it's pre-established. And I mean, you're right, because I feel like when I showed up and played for like the 150 whatever people, there wasn't really that connection. Like they just kind of like, I was just like a sound to them, and it didn't really matter who was behind the turntables. Whereas when I play shows for those 8 to 10, 15, 20, even 20 people at a house party, everybody leaves wondering where they can listen to my music, and they hit me up on Instagram. Like that's what I prefer anyway. That's why I was saying in the beginning, like I prefer intimate shows because it allows me the ability to connect with the crowd a lot better. And it also allows me to build a stronger connection with the fans. I don't know what else to call it. Like with the audience, I guess is a better way to put that. Like I hate using the word fans because that makes me sound like I'm something that people follow. But regardless, I prefer the intimate venues, and I think I'll echo your point, is it's important to start small. And if you can't find the open mic or the open decks in the DJ community, that's basically what they have. Like throw your own show. There's nothing saying you can't.
Can I take you back to the beginning?
Yeah.
How did you get those people to pay $5? Why would they care?
Well, a few of them were my friends. One of them was my girlfriend, and she had friends. Okay. And it's pretty common in the beginner DJ space to have a cover for a night. And honestly, it's more about just like hanging out at a bar that they already enjoyed hanging out at, but I'm the DJ now. So, I mean, I kind of like saw an opportunity, and I inserted myself into it. Whereas if I was going from scratch, like I wasn't sure, that's kind of what I'd figure out first. Like I think it makes the most sense to go find at least a niche that is somewhat accepting of that. Like you don't want to go to a rock venue and be like, I'm here to play hip hop. Like, I don't think so. That's not the audience we have here. So I think it's important to do a little bit of research in that regard. But overall, it just happened how it happened. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, I guess I bring it up because I've heard plenty of stories from people, for example, who say get the opportunity to throw a venue if they can perform, or rather they don't have to pay to perform. They can keep bar sales, whatever, if they can get 10 people to come, and they can't. And that's kind of why I ask, or like 10
so yeah,
because there was a $15 tag at the door, $5 tag at the door, or whatever.
So I had I guess you could say I had a following, but it wasn't something where I like, again, it was something I built organically at house parties. Like my beginning as a DJ was literally that. I don't even remember. I think I had talked about it with the person I was dating at the time, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I should be a DJ. I want to do that." And they were like, "So do it." And I was like, "Cool." And then they had this huge house with 5 other people that lived in it because it was a college town, and they were like, "Oh, we throw parties like every weekend. You should play here." And I was like, "Sick." And that was actually my introduction to playing hip hop because I only played like house music back then. Because
Right.
I was a hardcore like techno like house dance music, but they were like, "Yo, play Gucci Man," and I was like, "Okay, I don't have that." And they're like, "Here, take this," and they would like hand me the CD, and I would just play it, which was super awesome. But yeah, I would say I learned a lot from that, and I suggest that anybody who can, as an entertainer, take the small venues, take the open mics, and if you can't, throw your own party. And the reason you can charge at the door even if no one knows who you are is because you know your value, and if you present it that way, then people are gonna pay it. It's like you don't question the cover of a bar anyway. So if you're just because your name's on the marquee and not someone else's, that shouldn't change the fact that they're paying a cover. Like, I don't know, for me personally, I've never been to a event that had a bill, like a lineup that I didn't pay a cover for, that wasn't like in addition to the bar. Like, I know there are places that like, oh, we have an in-house DJ. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. But like, if I'm going to see a show that's outside of the norm, I expect to pay some sort of a cover.
So I agree with you there, and I definitely think if you're throwing your own thing, it's about how you present it. Present with value, people will pay a value. Um, it's the idea behind business at a core. The question I wanna harp on, or the part of that I want to harp on, because I'm just really trying to like. I agree with you. We're both entrepreneurs. We have that mindset. Some people are in their own right full creatives and kind of leave the entrepreneurship to others. And I
Yeah.
want to be able to allow those people to see in basically like a yellow brick road. So I'm gonna like ask about the very beginning when you're doing these house parties. It's what you're in college. You just know people and they're inviting you, and you're like, "Hey, I'm a DJ." Do you set the thing up in the house themselves, like yourself?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, you're a one man show. Like it
Right.
just starting from the beginning. I can't even count the number of times that I was dragging my turntable, like my flight case. I don't even know if I can get it in the shot. Actually, I can. So that right there, my flight is my flight case. There's turntables in there, and I was literally dragging that down the street. It has wheels on it, but the wheels don't roll for shit. So I just dragged it down the street, and I did that for house parties. I did that for club shows, and like that goes back to what I was saying. Like, I didn't trust a lot of club gear, and a lot of clubs didn't have what I wanted. So yeah, like even at house parties, that people aren't going to have what you need to set up. So invest in a speaker that you can play in a house, like a small, like I had a speaker that was like this big. It was like a 10-inch speaker that I plugged into and I played from. I had my own turntables. So if you're going to be a DJ, do that. But if you're going to perform music, have what you perform with. If you play keyboard, have your keyboard, but have like a speaker that's big enough for you to play from, so that you don't need to worry about in-house systems. And if you want to play a house party, hey, I have everything you need. And then I even invested in lights. So if you're going to be like that one man show, like I talk about, go the whole way. Like, get some lights, get some get, I don't know, get something entertaining, get a logo, take it serious. Even if it is just a hobby, the more seriously you take it, the more serious people are going to take you. So that's kind of where I go to say, if you're, no matter what level you're at and no matter where you're at in the world, like, you can find a venue that's already playing similar style of music, or it at least is open to it, and either put on your own show or join a show that, or join a night that's already happening. And if not, start at house parties. Like, it's kind of hard at like, if you're like 45, like, but I still think you could do it. But I think that's a little bit of a different story. But I think you can still find ways to do events that aren't at a club or a like a venue. Like, you can still do house parties, but do them at like a clubhouse that you rent, or Airbnb
Yeah.
that you're allowed to use for that, and make it small.
So that point I was gonna add on top, not really anything, or not harping on anything specific, but what you're saying applies to every type of performer, right?
Absolutely.
If your group is dancing, Make sure you bring the right fucking shoes. Make sure there's enough room in the place you're going to. Make sure you bring the equipment you're gonna need, the speakers, because if they have to play it on their little Sonos and you have to dance with a whole bunch of people talking, it's not gonna feel real good. It's not gonna sound real good. It's not gonna look real cool. So point is, backpack rappers are a thing for this reason. They had to go
Tell
places.
me, okay, unpack that for a second. No pun intended. What's a backpack rapper?
Literally what it sounds like. A backpack rapper is a J. Cole. A backpack rapper is the guy who runs around the city trying to make a name for himself with nothing but bars and a backpack on. What's in the backpack is whatever the fuck he needs because he's running around all day. So my point is, you have to be the backpack guy. You have to figure that shit out. Every DJ comes ready with a backpack and the flight case.
Yeah, I mean, I was a backpack kid. Like my backpack had everything in it, backups of stuff. It had like medicine that I needed, like for headaches. Like it doesn't have to be music related, but like have everything you need in order to put on a show at a location. Right. And I love that you brought up like dancing and stuff like that, and not bringing the little Sonos thing, because I've been in that situation where I had to put on a presentation of some kind, and they're like, "Oh, you can't hook into the house sound because you don't have this type of setup, or that we don't have the adapter." And I'm like, okay, so now what? They're like, can you play it from your phone? I'm like, you realize we're going from a literal house surround sound system to a phone? And they're like, I don't know what to tell you. So right. Yeah, I mean, scope out where you're going to play prior to going there. And then talk to the venue owners and find out what's allowed. Like if it's a house party, find out what's allowed, find out what they're going to be doing. And another thing I'll add, and then we'll kind of transition to the end, is make sure that you do a little bit of due diligence, because I once played a house party and I didn't realize it, but what they had done was turned my speaker around and pointed it outside the window and opened the window.
Okay.
Into a neighborhood.
Dumb as fuck, but okay.
I know, and I didn't realize it because I was paying attention to the speakers facing this way, but there was a speaker behind me as my monitor, and they had turned it and opened the window, and my brain wasn't like, pay attention to the window, because I didn't think about what was about to happen. But sure enough, the cops showed up. Bang, bang, bang. They're like, hey, we got some calls for some loud music, da-da-da-da. And I turn around and I see the windows open. I'm like, and like, I think I'm going to get in trouble. But long story short, they ended up like being like, yeah, just turn it down and shut the window, you idiots. And I was like, yeah, what the? But I ended up leaving anyway, because that was my perfect segue to leave. Because I was like, hey, officer, you're parked behind me. Can I leave? They're like, yeah, sure. They like let me go. It was great. They're like, you haven't been drinking, have you? I was like, I'm not even old enough to drink. They're like, cool. I'm just the entertainment, sir. I had nothing to do with this party. But yeah,
that's hilarious. I've never that would so not work here, bro. You haven't
absolutely
been drinking,
not.
You haven't been drinking, have you? I'm not even old enough to drink. Breathalyzer.
Get him. Then I know you're drunk. Nobody's underage and not drinking in this party. Right. But yeah, no, the cop was definitely really cool. But yeah, to my point, like kind of if you know that there's a potential for a noise ordinance issue, like it is a residential area, make sure that you're not playing and annoying the neighbors, because you're responsible for the noise. Even if you weren't the person who opened the window, that's not going to fly to a cops don't care. But anyway,
I can speak for that too. I mean, mine is sort of different circumstance. I was the one throwing the party, but it was like it was a mansion, but the DJ was outside.
Ah, okay.
Blasting the fuck out the music. Now at the time, I'm a little younger, and I have no tattoos. So when the cops pull up, I'm the first one to speak to them. And I'm hey, Mr. Officer, my name's government, etc. But the people who ended up shutting us down were was the host of the house we were in, because obviously the rule was no parties. We did our thing, thought it would be a secret, but because the neighbors kept calling and complaining, I guess one of the neighbors knew him, called him.
Oh, damn.
A branch of people I didn't even know existed, Airbnb police, came by. And like,
okay,
they're police. It was like Airbnb security.
Yeah.
And shut the party down. So be prepared, know the rules in the neighborhood. Like Rick said, scope it out.
Yeah, don't assume the venue or the homeowner did any of that, because even if it's a venue, that doesn't mean that they did that. Because I've also played at venues where they turn the house sound way too loud, and like that's not on you, obviously. But I'm saying like just pay attention to kind of the area you're in, and then also like Don't get your shit stolen. That's a really big deal, especially if you have everything in a backpack. Don't leave the backpack ever. Don't let it leave your side. And that's like a duh moment, but it's really easy to be like, oh, no, it's fine. I'll leave it in the green room. No.
No.
Unless you have a key and you're the only one with the key, don't even think about it. But yeah.
It really just like, don't make excuses, bro. Handle your shit. You
Yeah,
know?
for real. But yeah, one more topic I wanted to cover, and then we'll kind of wrap it up and do the whole plug thing. Is nowadays, I don't think you have to actually perform live. You can do what you see me doing here, and just live stream from your house, and you can do this. I've seen it before. I forget what it's called, but they do it. Like I saw one where Gunna, I think, did a whole performance in a backyard. Like they do like Tiny Desk type style. I mean, that's even a way you could do it. I think
That's what the conversation I was having today with a friend was, is that like we want to throw Tiny Desk type events essentially, because
and I think you should.
We're in that stage of, okay, we need the intimacy that provides, you know.
Yeah, and I personally love that type of stuff. Like I love playing a live set or doing something live with other people, but in like an intimate setting, to where it's like a backyard or like even just a small little living room set. Like I've done foyer sets,
Right.
where literally they have this inset, like it's below the ground. Like
It sounded like you said incest, and then you said it's below the ground, which was
yeah. Well, so I know it's not incest. It's inset is what I meant to say. Like is what I was trying to say. Inset into the ground, but I don't think that's right. But regardless, the floor was a little lower than the step, so you had to step into it. So it was like a dance floor. Recessed was the word I was looking for, not incest. Jesus Christ. I knew it was something cessed.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, it's getting late. It's not really getting late. It's only like 7:00, but regardless. Yeah, I think it's important to know that you don't need to be in a venue. You don't need a house party. You don't even need to invite people into your space. You can actually do a live stream and build that hype up just same way. You can actually charge for a live stream. There's paywalls. Like that's another conversation. If anyone has any questions, feel free to DM me on that, because I have a few ideas. But overall, it's something that absolutely, especially in this day and age, that you should explore and do to get practice. Because what better way to practice for a live set than to do one in your own home? Like there's no commute.
To any degree, and you don't do what he's doing without being live, you're not doing it right. Just
oh yeah. Yeah, and you don't need the lights, but
I promise you, you're not doing something if you're not doing this, regardless of if the camera's on. That's all.
Yeah, I think it's you should be giving your practice performance as if your camera is on, but you don't have to have the camera on. But it's a lot more fun and a lot more pressure, but in a good way, like the good kind of pressure when you have the camera on, because you can't just like fuck off. You can't just like, oh, I'm just gonna be bad. I'm gonna miss this note. I'm gonna do this half-assed because no one's watching. Because people are watching. Even if you think no one is, I guarantee you, if you go live on YouTube, Instagram, like Twitch, whatever, someone's gonna end up watching you, even if it's only one person. And I say this a lot when people talk about, oh, I only got like 1,000 views on my reel or whatever. I'm like, dude, if 1,000 people walked up to you right now, you'd be like, what the fuck? Like it's a lot of like people. 1,000 people is a lot. Or even a follower count, like, oh, I only have 1,000 followers. Like 1,000 people, are you kidding me? If you put all those people in an auditorium, that would be way overwhelming for you right now. Trust me, it's a lot of people.
100%.
But yeah, you should absolutely be, if you're not live streaming, you should absolutely be practicing like you are, because that will prep you in the way that I guess would be like a good pseudo way to prep you to be performing out live, because there's no substitute for performing out live.
To segue into sort of our last point, into the conclusion, I want to play devil's advocate to what you're saying right now.
Okay.
A lot of 2022 and 2023 for me as an artist was out of the house, was live performances, live shows, fucking reels. It was media. It was like media day every day.
Right.
I did well, and my media, my social media can prove that. But my real life is different than social media. It's not like because I made it on, I didn't make it on social media, but because I improved moved.
Because you're doing well.
Right, because I'm doing well on social media. That had no real effect on, or bar a few small things on my real life, because my focus wasn't in real life. My focus was do a thing so I can give it to the masses, as opposed,
Yeah. Okay. I like that.
right? So I'm playing devil's advocate for Rooks' point. Yes, media is probably number one, but if you want to take it all the way, IRL is right under it. It's not this far, right? Because if you can post something but you can't entertain a crowd, then nobody's ever going to really pay to see you, right? At whatever degree. If you're an entertainer, then that's what people are paying to see. So that's my point.
Yep. I absolutely agree. I think it's important to recognize that if you are going to, like you said, take it all the way and be a full-fledged artist and get the full experience of being an artist or an entertainer in whatever facet that you are, do it live, even if it's for 3 people. If you're not doing it live at all, then again, I think it's just one of those things that you might as well do behind closed doors and keep it there. Because if you're going to tell people you do it and you're going to take it to that, at least that level of interest and passion, like, go out and experience it. Like, if you're gonna become a diver and you only swim in a pool that goes to 6 feet, I don't think you're really doing it. I think you need to get into an Olympic-sized dive pool to really know what it's like. And I mean, I don't know why I don't even swim. I don't know why that was the first thing that came to mind, but I was going to go with snowboarding. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, that's kind of where my thought process goes. And I think that overall we've covered a lot of good topics of kind of performing live, what it takes, and some ways that you can go about it. So
I do want to leave whoever's watching with this, in that, we're two fucks. If you have an opinion on live versus IRL versus whatever, on anything we said, feel free to leave it in the comments. We will address it in the next video, because we don't feel like we're the only 2 people alive. And we both have personal Instagrams if you guys care. Mine is at cloudy.twm.
Yeah, mine's at rooksmusic_.
So you can check it out there. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah, I think that's a great sign off. Overall, if you ever have any comments about what we talk about, or you want to be on the show, definitely leave a comment. We have open verse challenge that we'll be going over eventually when we get some more people to hop on it. But absolutely check out in the comments, check out in the info. There's going to be the link to download the beat. If you're any type of songwriter or lyricist, we would love to hear you hop on any of our few beats we have there on our YouTube. So check it out.
You know what episode we did the open verse in? Because I completely forgot.
I don't, but if you go to our videos, it's there. It'll say open verse challenge number 2, I think. But if not, it'll have the thumbnail.
And we will be back on Monday, the
let me
20th.
Is that what it is?
Monday the 20th. I'm smart. I know dates.
Good. All right. So Monday the 20th. So we'll be on what time?
5 p.m. PST, 8 p.m. EST.
Good job. You did it. That's right. Cool. So we'll see you then. And until then, feel free to hit us up, and we'll see you next time. Peace out.